Welcome to the podcast where we celebrate innovation for a happy planet. I am your host, Abigail Carroll. This week we are headed to New York City, the epicenter of the fashion industry in the United States. I think everybody loves great clothes, but you should know that some 85%, I'm going to repeat that, 85% of all textiles end up in landfills each year, and it can take over 200 years for some materials to decompose. Part of the problem is that blended fibers that we've grown to love so much, think about your stretched jeans, they are not recyclable. William Calvert, co-founder and CEO of the fashion tech startup Return to Vendor, and his partners are looking to take a bite out of this waste. Their mission is the ultimate biomimicry because, as William says so astutely, in nature, there is no waste. Think about that for a second. William's goal is 100% circularity of fashion inputs. But let's hear it from William. Welcome to the podcast, William.
Thank you, Abigail. Nice to see you.
You too. It's a huge honor to have you here today. You are an award-winning fashion designer, and you've launched a new project with two partners that looks beyond the design into the back end and the mechanics, and with a sustainable light onto this part of the fashion industry. Can you tell me a little bit about your journey and how you became interested in sustainability?
Certainly. So, like you said, my background's in design, and about 10 years ago, I pivoted into textile technology, where I was part of an international think tank whose goal was to create the first ever down fabric, because it is the supreme insulator on the planet, but it's complicated to work with. What we ended up with was a product that was easy to work with and significantly warmer and more packable and more efficient than anything else on the market. And so we created an ingredient brand around it and set about global distribution, and that's now carried in with companies and brands in China, in Korea, in Europe, in Northern Europe, in Scandinavia, in Eastern Europe, in North America and Japan as well. What was quite interesting there is we had to not only come up with the concept of this product, sort of the proof of concept, but also design and build the machinery to then produce this product, because it didn't exist and therefore the machinery didn't exist either. So that machinery is 70 meters long. That's like 5 city buses end to end. And to move down, you have to use air, and then to make the product, you have to lay that down millimeter precise, and air and millimeters don't go so well together, hence the complexity. And so a lot of that knowledge of how to build an ingredient brand, how to market it to the world, what the solutions you're unlocking, where it can be disruptive, where it can be innovative, all that sort of thinking was top of mind when I met my two co-founders, Adam Berukowitz, who has a deep knowledge of textile recycling. He's a leader in the East Coast, and he's, over the last 20 years, recycled about 30 million pounds of textiles. And he has firsthand knowledge of what comes back, what can be recycled, what cannot be recycled. It's significantly less than 15% of all textile products. And also Gungarthar Jogi Kalmat, who is a PhD material scientist and has a serial entrepreneur as well, and has probably 25 patents to his name across natural chemistry for food and for paper, as well as synthetic chemistry, nylon and biosensors and other things. And the three of us don't really fit in a box very well, but we have these diverse and overlapping skill sets. And so we spent months sort of thinking about what this could be and how you could actually prove circularity at scale out of the gate. So that company's called RTV, Return to Vendor, which is the worst term in fashion because it's a retailer taking in your product and saying they're not going to keep it, and so they return it to vendor. So we wanted to take that horrible negative terminology and spin it positive, and it's also a play on extended producer responsibility. So, and that sort of speaks to our ethos. So we are, pillar number one is responsible sourcing. So we're using nothing new. All of our raw materials reclaimed, be that fishing nets, be that carpet, be that post-industrial waste. And the way we are able to deliver that is reclaiming waste from the environment, using our technology to upgrade that waste so that you can make complex and diverse products that are strictly monomaterial, And the advantage to making the, and thinking about recyclability from the get-go, and then taking that product back and recycling it at the end of its life. If that is a uniform or a scrub, that could be in 3 months. If that's a fashion piece or a luggage piece, that could be in 4 or 5 years. But the important thing is, because it's monomaterial, it's recycled in one easy step. No disassembly required. We simply grind it up and turn it back into feedstock. No loss, no complexity.
So you're starting with nylon.
For now, we're using strictly nylon.
So why did you choose nylon as a sort of test case?
So we chose nylon for a couple reasons. One is it's about 50% of ocean waste. There's enough nylon in the sea to make 30 pairs of shoes for every single person on the planet. So there is an abundance of raw material. Couple that with all the industrial carpet that's pulled out every day from buildings, and couple that with post-industrial waste from production cuttings, so that there's an abundant supply. And then more importantly, when you recycle nylon, unlike some other synthetics, there's no BPA off-gassing, there's no forever chemicals, there's no bad that comes from reprocessing that nylon. And that is very important. On top of that, nylon is a proven entity. It's used all through apparel, all through luggage, all through furniture, all through home furnishings, medical, military, industrial. So we could aim at ubiquity from this product that's not only reclaimed, but the recycling of it doesn't create another problem.
Yeah. So you mentioned shoes. When you work with nylon, can you make the sole of the shoe as well as, because we're talking about monomaterial products at the end.
Right. We're starting with garments and accessories first, and we've already unlocked very complex garments, including all the trim, the thread, the buckle, button, zipper, snap. Everything is made out of our fiber.
Amazing.
So we've already proven that, and then we've already proven reusable packaging, and hats and some other products as well. Shoes will come later. We are sort of 60% through proving it a shoe, but we're not going after footwear. There are multiple unlocks. The typical shoe has 25 materials in it. We're building one that has only one material, and so that's a little bit down the road because it's more complex.
Yeah. So can we just back up a little bit so I understand the process of recycling? When you gather, I love that you're out in the ocean. Well, you may be personally not in the ocean, but you're working with fishermen. They're bringing in line and products that they have found on the ocean. How do you get from a line to a recycled fiber?
So that is, the nets come in, they're cleaned and sorted and often ground because you want to densify them if they need to be shipped, because grind is much more efficient to ship than nets alone. And also it depends what journey they're going on. So depending on what we are going to make with that raw material, they will be mechanically recycled to create injection molded products or other simplistic products. When you're making something that has high performance specs like textile yarn, we'll use a hydrolysis process which depolymerizes the nylon and then repolymerizes it. So how do you deliver the look, the feel, and the performance that the customer, the brand, and the brand's customer are used to, yet now it's circular? So, it shouldn't be obvious. You should say, oh, this is a regular product, and now it's circular, right? So that is, so yes, we produce yarns that are then turned into fabrics, knit, woven, etc.
On the product side, what sort of product lines are you most excited about?
So we're already unlocking intimate apparel and swim. We're working on some home products, and then athleisure, sport, golf, outdoor, and even some rugged product, and then accessories like backpacks and duffel bags and things like that.
Nice. So you have a platform and you can service a whole industry off of this. You really want to partner with big companies, fashion labels, and give them the opportunity to benefit from this tech.
Correct. We're an ingredient brand, and the way we collaborate with brands is to sort of snap on or be their turnkey circularity team. So we have this platform that enables all of these unlocks for complex products that are truly circular, all with the mindset that this can deliver something that is comparable to their existing product, but now it's not going to end up in landfill. And so not only do we help them achieve those products and deliver the marketing stories around achieving those products, but we also inbuild a take back system. So that's a digital ID with a partner app, so the consumer can return it. That can be a bin in their retail environment, so a drop box per se, or a button on their website, so we can leverage their existing return logistics to bring product back. We aggregate that product, and then, like I said earlier, we grind it up, and it goes right back into our system as feedstock. Nothing goes back into the environment, and so, at scale, we're pulling all of this waste out of the environment and designing a platform that keeps it from ever going back into the environment. And that's a big piece because textile production is a big polluter. The going stats are that the fashion business is responsible for 20 to 30% of the global carbon footprint. When you think about US, that is maybe 1/10 the textile production of, say, compared to, say, China. But the US makes about 25 billion pounds of textiles per year, and only about 15% of that is recyclable. So that means 21 billion pounds to landfill per year. That is not tenable. There's no waste in nature. So how do we create a solution where people don't think, oh, I'm just going to throw this away? They're like, oh, it's raw material. Resources were spent, time and energy. Why throw it away? Why not just reuse it? So we can take it back to its core form and then reanimate it, per se, into new product over and over and over again.
I love it. And you said something that is just so simple and profound and genius. There is no waste in nature. And I want to amplify that because it's such a profoundly straightforward and simple truth.
Right.
And we should aim to emulate that. It's the ultimate biomimicry, right? Is to try to not waste.
Not waste. And are you for the ecosystem or against it? And we have a throwaway culture, but that was trained. That was not automatic. That was trained. And so how do we get back to where resources matter and they can be reused? How do we get back to that? So we're trying to, when we think about how we engage with the world, we're irreverent because we're breaking boundaries and being disruptive. We're excellent because we're making it look easy. And then we're a path to hope because it's not circularity for 2050, it's circularity for 2024.
I want to hear the perspective of the companies. How are they reacting? What are the brands saying?
So we're still somewhat in stealth. We are talking to many brands, important brands in different categories, and we are showing up to deliver a solution because not only is there consumer pressure to make products muntable, large sweeping legislation that's going to put incredible pressure on. Already in 3 states in America, Massachusetts, New York, and California, textile waste into the landfill is illegal. That's going to sweep nationwide. That's going to globally. But there aren't solutions. So how do we say, okay, make the product the way you want, with the look and feel you want for the customer to have, and then engage with them at end of life as well, so they can send it back.
Yeah.
And that. Not only does that create a new touch point, but that new way of behavior and that benefits us all. And so the reaction, for the most part, from has been overwhelmingly positive because they're like, oh, it just works. It's like, yeah, it just works. There are some rules, there are some parameters, but it just works.
Right. It seems like a lot of this is ahead of where we are in the United States in Europe. Europe has been leading the charge, I think. Is that correct?
Europe is leading the charge, and that's where a lot of the legislation is coming from because they're talking about, a tax if it's not recyclable, a tax if it ends up in the landfill, anti-greenwashing, like if you're going to say it's sustainable, which is a word we actually kind of stay away from. We focus on circular because sustainable is ambiguous at best. So with circular is like it comes from waste, it makes great product, and it goes back into the system. And so it's now illegal to say vegan leather in Portugal because it's not true. It's a misnomer, right? So and then there's these claims. Look, this is a recycled product when 20% of it is recycled. So we designed this so that the three of us designed this so that it would work within Europe and it's future proofed relatively.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. I'd like to thank Gulf of Maine Research Institute and Bold Ocean Ventures for their support of Happy Planet Podcast. GMRI and Bold Ocean Ventures have partnered to create a mission-driven venture capital fund supporting the growth of innovative, sustainable, ocean-related businesses. Listeners may remember Patrick Breeding, who was on our show last year to talk about Marin Skincare and its clinically proven formula that uses glycoproteins from Maine lobsters to treat eczema and dry, damaged skin. This company has since become wildly successful with their lobster lotion, and Patrick is inviting listeners to a 20% discount on their products by using the coupon code HAPPYPLANET on their website, Marin Skincare. I actually use this product myself, and I highly recommend it. For a blue economy to thrive, people need to use more sustainable products. But which products? And will consumers actually adopt them? Innovators like you are hustling to figure this out. Spark number 9 can tell you if there's demand for your product. Spark markets your product before it's built using online advertising so you launch smarter. Have a big idea? Vet it with Spark before you build. Visit Spark online at www.sparkno9.com or find them on LinkedIn. Welcome back to the podcast. So, we all love to buy clothes because it makes us feel happy. I don't think that's going to stop. What should people be thinking now when they're out just trying to buy clothes for themselves? Like, what are the parameters that we should use to try to be greener in that activity?
Well, it's interesting. I read an article one time where it said, I still want my leggings to cost $5, but I don't want them made by children. And it was like, well, I don't think you can have both of those things simultaneously.
Right.
And it's like, the reason a lot of product is so cheap is because the companies making them are not required to be ecologically responsible.
Yeah.
If you put that cost in, they wouldn't be so cheap anymore. And so there may be a shift to where like better is better, rather than cheap is amazing. There is going to be some shift, and that'll happen in different markets at different times. But I think if there's overarching advice, it would be to ask more of what you're buying, right? And being aware of what you're buying.
Right. So there are actually a lot of toxins in these clothes that we're wearing. It's not just an environmental issue. There's toxins to our own health.
Like even just a simple cotton t-shirt, and it says the t-shirt says on the content label 100% cotton, but that's often not true. The thread and the label are polyester, and oh wow, it feels super soft and soapy, lack of a better, or suede like, and that's because maybe it has silicone, or some people are allergic to silicone. So they're having outbreaks and they don't know that it's caused by their shirt or their underwear or their pants because they're allergic to it. So it's like there's all the, and it's easy to say, oh, this never should have happened, but it's like people were trying to make compelling product and they thought, oh, look, I can use this chemical and it'll make it soft. I don't think they thought down the road that it would, or, and so now that's all coming to the fore and that's going to stop.
So, I mean, I'm just curious at the industry with all these laws coming forward and the consumers starting to wake up to these issues and a lot of secondhand shop activity and circularity in that way. You're in it. What are you seeing and how do you see this evolving over the next 5 to 10 years? What's that landscape potentially going to look like?
Ideally, repair is a normal, common market practice that new make products are easily recyclable. because there are engines and machines and factories running 24/7 to create this product. Why on earth are we throwing it all away? It's the craziest idea.
And it's all ending up in these crazy piles in like Ghana. I met some people in Ghana who were coping with these just massive, like big swaths of the country are basically big clothing piles.
So what's happening is this overabundance is getting shipped around the world and to places where it can't be used, so it gets discarded. And what a waste. So, consume less, sure, but then also consume better.
And so tell me, how are the financial people looking at this?
So the financial people are looking at RTV as a change agent, right? So when we prove this, then it becomes a recipe where many brands, many industries can glom on and use this solution for a better future. So what we're doing now is we're bringing in brands as test cases, simultaneously de-risking all the mechanics, the supply chain, et cetera. And that's not just front supply chain, that's back supply chain, because we have to take it back and recycle it as well. So it's cradle to cradle. We're de-risking those and testing them to make sure they operate at scale while we're signing on brands that will come in and use that system at scale. And so we're in the middle of that right now, which is very, very exciting, because you can imagine a future where not only it's circular, but because of what we're doing, you could simplify that supply chain as well.
We've talked about the fashion brands, we've talked about the finances, we've talked about the environmentalists. What about the consumer? Have any of your products that you've designed, has anything come back to the consumer?
That is going to happen soon. Right now, we're, like I said, we're in stealth modes, but what we've been focused on now is creating prototypes that prove the model. Oh, you think you can make this top? Well, here's an example of a similar top, but now it's circular. Here's a bottom, here's a jacket. The goal is that our logo becomes a symbol for circularity, right? And a verb,
Are you optimistic about the future of our ability to stay ahead of climate pressures? Maybe your perspective is specifically fashion, or you could address that sort of globally.
We all see the plastic washing up on the beach, or we all see them, but I'm optimistic. I mean, we're going after this to prove that it's doable and prove that it's that we can deliver cost parity. So can we come out with circular products that are cost parity now? Well, that can only speed the adoption, because if the recipe is better and the costs are the same, why wouldn't you do it?
I mean, I do think that a lot of it is up to the consumer. It's up to all of us. It's everybody living on this planet to make changes that will get us to a happier ending here. But I do think there's also a lot of uncertainty. There are a lot of uncertainty and, different strategies to get there. And I think of leather, and, in Europe, leather is really considered to be a sustainable product because you can buy a leather bag and have it your whole life.
And if you don't want real leather, then stop eating meat altogether, because if you're going to eat meat, then there will be leather. It's a byproduct, right?
And vegan leather, for all of it's right. Plastic. And it uses all this water. I mean, I know tanning does too. So, but it's hard. I think it's hard. It's challenging for a lot of people, especially in an industry like fashion, which has it's been historically so mysterious, which was sort of part of its charm.
Right.
But it's hard to unpack that and know how to make those responsible decisions. And I think your system is a really good step in the direction of making it easier.
Yes, that is the goal.
I love that idea that you are starting out with a design that's intention is to be circular. Do you have any advice for other entrepreneurs who might be tuning in?
Yeah. What we did is we spent quite a bit of energy figuring out, making sure it worked before we moved forward. And, so there's a lot of tech happening where it's like, oh, these miraculous inputs, none of them can be recycled, or many of them cannot be recycled. And so where's the win? Is it just marketing? You should think of the entire life cycle of the product, because we're entering a world where there's going to be cradle to cradle traceability, and So that is a new parameter that must be added.
I have a feeling you're going to bring 100% circularity, and it's going to be the next big thing in fashion.
That would be awesome. We're also looking at uniforms and scrubs and automotive interiors and all kinds of different things. You want you want ubiquity.
And you're not going to stop with nylon. This is the first stop.
So yeah, we've started with nylon, and we want to prove nylon first and foremost, and once that is working, we could look at other fibers. But we're focused on nylon time being because that works. But you can imagine a future where we work with multiple fibers.
Well, thank you so much for coming on this podcast today, William. It was just a huge honor to have you here, and I'm so excited about what you're doing. And I think that listeners are going to be really, really intrigued and excited about this.
Thank you. It was my pleasure, and thanks for liking what we're doing, because it's going to take a movement for the change.
It seems like you're well positioned to do that. I have a feeling we're going to be hearing a lot about William and his team in the years to come, and I wish them the best of luck. It's funny, in this episode, I wanted to step away from ocean tech to get some perspective on other industries that are innovating against the clock to help the planet. And what do you know? Fashion tech brought me right back to the ocean. But I guess that makes sense. In the end, doesn't everything come back to the ocean? Thank you once again for listening, and please follow Happy Planet wherever you tune in and leave us a rating and review. Happy Planet was reported and hosted by me, Abigail Carroll. I am also the executive producer. George Brandel Egloff created our theme music. Learn more about my work and get in touch by visiting happyplanetpodcast.com.